Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Rosy O, and today let's take it back. Let's go back to the time when we first had our first yarn and our first hook. We are going to go back to when we first started to crochet. And this video I'm planning to show how to start with the basic of the stitches. I'm going to show how to single crochet. I've been wanting to make these kind of videos for, for anyone who's interested with anything with crocheting, who's never crocheted before, or just pretty much start the beginning, the basics of how to start with anything you want to make. I've been wanting to make this for, as I've said in my beginning, my first video, someone taught me how to crochet in the beginning, so I would like the opportunity to teach you as well. So just some basic information about this yarn. As you can see, this yarn's a little bit thicker than the usual one that I've shown. This is a chunky yarn, and this is a Paintbox Simply Chunky. You can purchase it through Love Crafts, and I don't usually buy a lot of this yarn because I have to wait till it's actually really discounted. And when I do, I buy it in bulk. I buy a lot of it. So some just basic information about this yarn. This yarn is 100% acrylic. And my apologies, when I first purchased, anytime, as I said, I see it discounted, I go nuts and buy it in bulk. So in the beginning, I used to cake all my yarns, and I soon learned after about the 50th one I've caked, I had no idea what I did with the labels. So I learned my lesson, and I started, I kind of eased off, and now I don't cake anymore. I only cake when I'm going to use the yarn for a project I'm going to make, keep it a little bit more organized so I actually see which yarn it is. But when I was caking it, I started putting the information on little post-its, and I would just put them into the bottom of the cake and leave it there until the day I'm actually going to use the yarn. So that's why I have this random little post-it. And as I said, this yarn is Paintbox Chunky, Simply Chunky. And the color of this yarn is code 342. Usually the Paintbox colors don't have the name of the color on the label. They have only the color code. So that's why I didn't really write the name. I only wrote the code. But if you actually go to their website, they actually do have names on them. And for this size of yarn, a recommended hook size for crochet is 6mm. Since most of the time I use it for crocheting, I don't really write information for knitting. But usually if it's a 6mm hook, it's usually a 6mm knitting needle as well. So usually these skeins are 3.5 ounces. So, and since it's a chunky yarn, usually the yardage is a little smaller. But I am going to link in the description below information of this yarn in case you're interested in, if you like the color or if you just like the size of it. As I said, the chunky yarn is a little bit thicker than the usual size 4 worsted weight. So, which is usually the yarn I purchased, but this one I bought it in bulk because it was on sale. So for this, I am going to use a 6mm hook. As you can see, this is a Susan's Bates. It's an ergonomic hook, and as it shows, it's a USJ10, which is a 6mm. Excuse me. I usually use clover hooks, but this is the only hook I kind of had close by. So, and I use these as well. Don't get me wrong; these hooks are just as good as clover hooks. It's just sometimes some hooks don't work as smoothly with specific yarn. So, but with Paintbox, I can use pretty much any kind of hook, and it works pretty, it works perfectly fine. So I just wanted to kind of just introduce all of this, and I'm going to zoom in a bit just so I can actually start and we can start stitching. So if you're not too familiar with crochet, I'm going to show pretty much the base, just a quick rundown of chaining anytime you're going to start a project. Any crocheting project you're going to start with, you always start with a chain. If you're following a pattern, or if you just decide, you know what, I'm gonna freestyle and be brave and just make my own kind of pattern, more power to you, because I can't do that. So to begin just with chaining, you just have to do a slip knot. Everyone has a different kind of style when they do a slip knot. So myself, the way I was taught is I just pretty much grab the yarn, kind of make a loop, pull the yarn through the loop, and it makes a slip knot. Just something real simple. Oh, my apologies. I think I went off camera on that. Let me do it again. I just made a hook. Sorry, yeah, a little loop of the yarn, fed the yarn through it, and then pulled it through, and it just made a little simple slip knot. So what I usually do is I get the hook and I just put it through the loop, tighten it a bit to make sure it's on there, and there you go. You're ready to go. So to chain, all you really have to do is you're going to hold the yarn if you're right-handed. I know left-handed is a little different style. I'm not familiar with left-handed. I apologize for that. But if you are curious, there are a lot of video tutorials for left-handed crochet projects, chaining, anything you need. You can get it from those videos. So everyone holds their yarn differently. I hold mine. I originally hold it. I usually, sorry, sorry about that. I originally used to hold the yarn this way, but then, you know, as I learned more, I started changing the way I would hold the yarn. So the way I hold it now is like this. But I'll switch it back to the way I used to do it, just for, you know, simplicity, especially since if you're a beginner. So all you would do is loop the yarn over the hook and hold the slip stitch, I'm sorry, the slip knot at the bottom, turn your hook and feed the yarn through the loop. Ta-da, you made your first chain. And you just make the same process again. I can show it again. So you would just loop it over, twist your hook slowly, and just pull it through the loop. And there you go. That's another one. And that's pretty much all chaining is. If I'm just going to make a chain of 12 just to have a line so you're able to see the single crochets. So if you can bear with me. I'm just going to make 12 of them really quickly. But let me just slow down a bit just in case you're still trying to catch how the chaining works. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So as you can see, I have 12 little chains here connected to my hook. So let me move the yarn a bit. I'm going to pull some more because I've already used up some. Excuse me. So that's 12 chains right there. So usually depending on the pattern, sometimes you'll skip the first chain, sometimes you'll start in the beginning. But since we're just doing simple single crochet, we're not going to do that. We're just going to start here on the first loop. Anytime you have the yarn on the hook, it's never ever consider your first loop. It's just yarn on the hook. That's it. So whenever you start a project, you never have to kind of get the yarn and try to force it in there. No, it doesn't work like that. That's not considered a first chain or loop. So for a single crochet, if you can see the first chain here, all you'd have to do is put the hook through the chain. Sorry, this ended up a little tighter than I thought. And you can see the hook in the back. So once you already have that, you see the loops, the yarn still there and the loop over here. Then you would just yarn over and then pull the yarn just through the chain. You see how it has 2 loops now? You're not going to pull it through the first one. You're just pulling it through the chain. You're going to yarn over again, and then you're going to pull the 2 loops. And there you go. You've made your first single crochet. So sometimes it's a little difficult whenever you start with the first chain, because since the original yarn is a little loose. So if you saw me kind of struggle to pull it through, it's because of that. But let's make it a little easier. Let's go to the next chain. So we go through the chain. You see the hook through the chain. You're going to yarn over, pull through the loop. You have 2 on the hook. You're going to yarn over again, and you're going to pull the yarn through. You can pop it through one and then pop it to another, and see, ta-da, you made a second single crochet. And let's do that again. So you're going to put it through the loop, and then you're going to yarn over and then pull it through. Oops, sorry about that. I got away from me. My apologies. I'm not used to holding it like this, so if I keep messing up, I apologize for that. And pull it through. There's 2 loops. Loop, yarn over, and then pull through one and pull through the other. And there you go. So if you want to go a little faster, the way it would look like is you pull it through the loop, yarn over, and instead of popping slowly, you would just pop it through. See how it does the same thing? So, sorry, I was going to yarn over again. That's a different stitch. I don't want to complicate you. Sorry about that. So you're going to go through the chain again, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, pull it through 2. You can see that I already messed up this. Let me pull it a bit so you can see. I think you saw that I didn't yarn over the second time. And especially with single crochet, you can see really clearly when you kind of messed up a stitch. You see how these look like the single crochets, but this one does not. It just kind of looks like a sad little lump. So when that happens, you can always reverse it. It's your project. It's your single crocheting. You can pull out the yarn as many times as you need until you're satisfied with whatever way the stitch is supposed to look. So since it's just the second one, I can pull out this one, and it's going to pull out this one, and then it goes back to my single crochet. See how the loop always stays there. As long as you're not pulling it too hard, the loop does stay on top. So if you have to do what I just did, or you ever have to redo, you'll always know that the loop is always there, as long as you're not pulling it too hard. So again, you would go through the loop, yarn over, there's 2, yarn over, go through 2. See how I did it real quickly? Let's do that again. Go through the loop, yarn over, you have 2, yarn over, pull through again, and there you go. So when I first learned to crochet, I did so many single crochet swatches just so my hands can kind of remember, kind of like muscle memory, remembers where I have to put the yarn, where I have to pull the hook through when I have to yarn over and all of that. And so I do recommend that, especially if you're learning, you're first learning to crochet or you're first learning to stitch. Just make a little swatch for yourself. It doesn't have to be just 12 chains like I did earlier. It can be, oh, sorry about that. Any number you want. You can do 20, you can do 30, or if you feel that's too much, you can just do 10 as well. As long as you can see that when you're pulling through, you can see the stitches once you've already completed the turn. So as you can see, I'm already near the end. You just yarn over, pull it through, and last chain, same thing. There's no difference unless you're following a pattern and it's requesting you to do something different. But usually if you're just making little single crochet swatches, you don't. You just go into the last chain, pull the yarn through, yarn over, and pull it through, and there you go. You have officially made your first little mini swatch of single crochets. So that's pretty much it. Just for this stitch, that's all you have to do. And if you want to continue on, I can show you how to do that. Let's say you feel comfortable. Okay, I've done my first row. I want to make my next row. All you have to do is just chain 1. And to move to a next row, all you pretty much is yarn over the hook, pull it through the loop, and there you go. See, you made yourself a little chain, and you would just turn your project, or in this example, the little swatch. And all you have to do is go back into the last single crochet. If you're kind of having a hard time spotting the top of the stitches, if you actually turn your project, you see all the little V's. That's all the little single crochet stitches. That's the shape it makes on top. So if you're, like I said, if you're struggling to see this little gap, which is the beginning of the first stitch, you can always turn it, put the hook under it till it's on the other side, and then yarn over, and then pull it through. And you see how I have 2 little loops now? And then the same thing, you would just yarn over and pull through the 2 loops. And there you go. Now you're going to be starting a new row. If you feel comfortable that you can actually see the gaps, I'll show you what it looks like in that view. All you really do is just lay it like you can actually see the little gap there. Just put the hook through. If you're not sure, all you have to make sure is that both loops of the V is on top. Just make sure that they're there make sure that they're there because if they're not, you might the stitch might look a little funny. You see how it went through? What you want to do is make sure that they're both on top. And then you would yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through again. And there you go. See? You have 2 little single crochet stitches. And that's how you pretty much do for the whole row. You just keep continuing on. If you're still having if you're still having problems seeing the little gap, you can always just do it through viewing the top. I did that when I first was learning because for the life of me, I could not see that little gap. I kept watching tutorials and they kept repeating, look for the gap, and I'm like, what gap are you talking about? And it is this is a thicker yarn, so it's a little easier to see. The thinner the yarn, it might be a little harder to spot, but it's always there. That's just how the stitch is. So that's when I was learning how to do it, I always made sure I was looking at the V and pulling the yarn through and making sure I was looping through. Excuse me. So, and that's pretty much how I learned when I started picking up the stitching and crocheting, just making sure that I'm understanding. As you can see, I'm going a little faster, and the single crochet stitch is such a simple stitch. And trust me, once you've already done it like, I don't know, 100 times in a swatch, you're going to be lightning fast when you're going through because you're going to pick it up. And same thing the way that there you go. This is usually how I hold the yarn. I didn't want to confuse you, but this is the way I hold it. As I said, if you ever seen any other crocheters, they always have a different kind of way they hold the yarn. It's whatever you're comfortable with. Some people, I actually picked it up from a crocheter that I would watch, and I practiced with it, and I found out, you know what, this is more comfortable for me to use, so I'll, always crochet this way. Some people actually hold it with just 2 fingers. Some people do it the way I showed before. So if you're kind of not sure how you want to hold the yarn, just test different ways. You can always look at other crochet videos, and you'll always spot the way the crocheter holds the yarn. So, and whichever style you decide, that's your style moving forward. And there's no wrong way to hold a yarn. As long as it's giving you the right tension, as long as, your hand is comfortable with it, there's no wrong way to hold the yarn. So as you can see, the last one, this was originally the beginning stitch. It kind of doesn't look the same like the rest of them. And that's because usually whenever you start in the beginning, you always get this little curve. Especially if you skip stitches, and that's only when you're doing patterns, you'll actually see the curve get a little bigger because you're skipping some of the beginning stitches. So since I didn't with this swatch, if you actually turn it, you can see the little V there. That is a stitch. So all you have to do is pretty much feed it through, and usually it's a little tougher to get the hook through these little end V's. Ooh, I gotta locate it. This yarn, I just haven't used it for a while, so that's why I'm struggling a bit with it. Oh, there we go. Here's the other part. And that's the other thing. Sometimes the other part of the V likes to tuck in and hide. So you have to locate it, and then you can pull it through. And there you go. You made your stitch. And sorry about that if that was a little confusing. But if you do see that, you saw how I kind of found the V and put the hook through. And sometimes, and especially depending on how tight you crochet, sometimes the little V hides or tucks in, so you'll have to look for it for a bit, and you just kind of have to like fight with it and get your hook in there, and there you go. And it doesn't mess up the yarn. As long as you have the V and you have those 2 loops showing once you pull the hook through, you're good to go. And there you go. See? And the same thing with the back and the front, they will look the same. So as you can see, I made a little swatch. And you can make as many rows as you want, whatever, you stop with whatever number you want. And if you already feel really comfortable with the stitch, then you can always find some simple projects, simple scarf projects that it's just single crochet. And trust me, just this little beginner stitch makes, and you have a beautiful yarn that you just love. Trust me, it makes a really, really amazing project, especially when you finish and you know, hey, I made this. My apologies if you hear a dog. There's a dog park near me, so sometimes you'll hear the barking. So that's all I have for today. And I'm hoping this video, helped you out, especially if you're trying to learn how to crochet. And if there are any questions, if you're not sure, you can always leave a comment below, and I'll reach out to you. And if you need any assistance, I have no problems, helping out, especially if you're just a beginner. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for watching this video. And if you're new, if you can like and subscribe by clicking the button below, I will highly appreciate it. And again, thank you for your time, and have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you.